Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1537A, and today's date is April 5th, 2018, and the title of the episode is China Mentions the Nuclear Option. We could dump treasuries. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with David Modell. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com or newssentinel.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You can play the video right on the site. Or you can go over to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we can see, the central banks, the establishment, they don't like anything competing with their fiat currency. And this includes gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, and this is why they go out of their way to demonize these other types of currencies. They don't want anyone to use them. They want to make sure that everyone believes that they're not good as a currency. You shouldn't have them. You shouldn't own them. Criminals use it. And this is continuing on. And we can see there are governments, there are central banks that definitely do not want it. And there are other governments that are not controlled by the private Western central bank system that sees cryptocurrencies as an excellent alternative. And what we're seeing right now is a separation of these countries and a war going on what currencies countries, the people, will use. And we see right now out in India, they have banned Bitcoin wallets and any type of cryptocurrency services. And basically, the 1.3 billion residents will not be able to invest in Bitcoin or other virtual currencies anytime soon. Now, this is coming from the Economic Times. The Reserve Bank of India has issued a blanket ban on all cryptocurrency trading. You will not be able to buy cryptocurrency via banks or e-wallets in India anymore. This is what the Reserve Bank of India is saying. And what we're seeing right now is basically countries, private Western central banks, they are now pushing their agenda. And we have known all along their agenda is to do the same thing they did with gold. Now, what's very interesting about this, central banks, as they were demonizing gold and silver and everything else, they ramp up on those precious metals, making sure they get it away from everyone else. The same thing is happening with cryptocurrencies. They're making sure that nobody else owns them, and they control the markets through the paper market. And what they do is they dump a lot of Bitcoin. They've been buying it up. We see out in Japan with the Mt. Gox fiasco, they're dumping a lot of cryptocurrencies. This has all been planned from the beginning to basically build Bitcoin up, make everyone look at cryptocurrency, tell everyone that drug dealers use it, it's in a bubble, and it's very volatile. And what they do is they then just dump it, and they show everyone, see, this is why you shouldn't be doing this. This is why you need us to protect you from it. Now, this is very interesting because the central banks, they are attacking cryptocurrency. They're saying, listen, we're doing this because we are protecting investors from volatility. Now, let's think about this for a second. When did it become the central bank's business to protect people from volatility, or what people want to do with their funds? Do they protect people from gambling? No. Do they protect people in the stock market? No. If people want to invest and it's a poor investment, guess what? It's their losses. So all of a sudden, they're very concerned about cryptocurrency and how volatile it is. They weren't very concerned when the market went down in 2008, 1929, 1933, 2001. They didn't help people out back then. They didn't warn people. They told us we weren't forecasting a recession in 2008. Don't worry about it. Everything's contained. Everything's good. So you can see right now, they're full of it. That's not why they're doing this. They're doing it because it's a threat to their system. Period. We see Venezuela, well, they're doing the opposite. They're saying, and what they would like to do is they would like to pay for Russian imports with cryptocurrency. We see Russia moving in that area. So we can see that countries, the private Western central banks, the countries that control their central banks, they're taking opposite sides of the road here, and we could see why there are many private Western central banks are saying, you're not going to use anything but what we say, because they want a centralized system. They want to control everything. This is why they started out right from the very beginning demonizing cryptocurrencies, the same way they tell us that gold is a barbarous relic. Nobody uses it anymore. It's not worth anything. And they continually try to prove to the world that it isn't worth anything by suppressing the prices. We see right now the U.S. is reporting the biggest trade deficit since the financial crisis. And once again, as we can see, that we cannot fix the current system. The current system has been destroyed by the central banks, deep state, and everyone else that had their hands in this. They created these ridiculous globalist trade deals. They moved everything out of this country to other areas like China. This was all being done during the last 50 years, and no one really noticed it because they knew that their system wouldn't last that long. They began doing this in the 70s. As soon as they came off the gold standard, they started to switch everything up, and they slowly do this over time. They ramp it up at the very end, but they had to slowly move manufacturing. They had to implement more regulations to make it difficult for businesses to stay in the United States. And this is what happens because they knew over time they were going to have to restart the system someplace else. Now, Trump is trying to get other countries on board with these tariffs, trying to start this trade war. And again, like he said, there is no trade war. The United States already lost the war. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to get a lot more countries together to accelerate the collapse of the system. Now, China is out there and they're saying, listen, we can use the nuclear option if you want an open trade war and you're bringing other countries in here. We can dump the U.S. Treasury bills and we can start selling them not by the millions, but by the billions or hundreds of billions. And we could rip your economy apart. This is exactly what Trump is looking for. This is the plan that Trump, Xi Jinping, Putin, and the rest, they've come together, and this is all being orchestrated behind the scenes to make everyone believe that he doesn't know what he's doing, he's starting trade wars, this is going to be a disaster for the economy. Translation for all of this is going to be a disaster to the central bank economy. We have to be very clear about this, that this is not an economy that is beneficial to the people of the United States or the world. This is a central bank economy which is beneficial to those who are running the central bank, the Rothschilds, those who are in power in Europe, the Fed, the bankers. That's what we're seeing right now. So we could see right now that things are being pushed, and it looks like at this time he's going all out because he realizes that he needs to bring the system down, because we've been watching and looking and analyzing all these indicators, and we see that the real economy is ripping itself apart. Now, we're going to go through this transition, and this transition, like I've said many times before, is going to be very, very bumpy. And again, what we're going to see out of the corporate media, what we're going to see out of the central banks, they're going to start making up stories of why the economy is not doing well. They're going to try to gain the narrative, and Trump is going to be on the other side calling out fake news. I mean, this is how I see it going down, just like he's done everything else. And every time the central bank, the corporate media, is out there trying to explain why this is happening, Trump is going to take control of the narrative and say, no, the reason why this is happening is because this, and that. The central bank, the corporate media, they're fake news. They're telling you a lie. And we're going to see this battle go on between the two factions. And we're going to have to wait and see to see who gains the narrative, because whoever is the winner of the narrative of the story and whoever the people believe in the end, well, that individual or the group of people, they will be able to control what happens next. Because if, for example, if Trump can come out and say, listen, fake news, this is the proof, fake news, this is the proof, and prove to the American people that they've been causing this for years and years and years, and this is how they've done it. This is what they've done. And if we actually get a bill and we go and audit the Fed. He'll have even more proof. He probably has a lot of proof right now, using all the spy apparatus within government. He probably knows a lot about what has been happening behind the scenes in the Federal Reserve. But when he brings all of this out and convinces the American people, the people are going to look at this and say, we're never going to have a central bank ever again. This is what happened during Andrew Jackson's term, where he campaigned on getting rid of the central bank, and the people said, never again, we will not have a central bank. And of course, what happens over time, people forget. Even our founding fathers told us that eventually we're going to fight for freedom once again. They said this will only last about 200 years because government becomes corrupt. The central bank has tried many times to get itself intertwined within the United States. It was the Central Bank 1, Central Bank 2, and then finally the Federal Reserve. They changed the name to make it seem like it was part of the government. And we see right now that this is exactly what is going to happen because we can see the fight is on. But again, with any transition, it's going to be very difficult because we're moving from one currency to another. Credit will freeze up. We're coming off a central banking system and moving to a completely different system. So there's going to be a lot of hiccups. A lot of people are going to have a very difficult time during this period. And this is why we've been saying you need to get prepared. You need your food, you need your water, you need your supplies, you need your gold, you need your cryptocurrencies, you need cash on hand. You need these things to weather the storm. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.